astrological solar return report. This is the Peace Dealer, and I hope you gain the utmost of quality from this report. We, of course, are going to be looking into your natal chart and your solar return chart relative to, of course, what it is you got going for it. And this definitely looks more than promising, especially when taking into account, especially when taking into account the nature of how awesome this is. I'm gonna be completely honest. I would say just off the strength of course, I would say just off the strength of you having the sun in the 7th house, this is definitely setting up this solar return to be very rewarding as you're establishing Leo Queen status relative to the personality and rising. But I think a whole lot more of what makes this very amazing is the North Node in Aries that is in the 9th house of this chart, but also the 1st house of your natal chart. So that's a very interesting facet of this chart that we see here. Your solar return rising is in the house of your moon. It's literally where your moon is, rather. So that's, of course, very unique, very interesting. And I think it's going to go a long way towards having you not only unlock facets of your character, but come into a higher philosophical approach and direction of how you see who you are as and everything that you're in a position to do with that information, as of course you will come into this realization all year. All right, so as far as gifts go with the solar return, this is definitely very exciting. By August, you're establishing and walking down the red carpet. And the whole purpose of the gift for this reading for you, of course, is the notion of you being in the 7th house and bringing to a more extraordinary quality your partnerships. Pluto on the 7th house especially is what definitely denotes that. And what's very key regardless of that is that with the awakening here, you're definitively going to be awakening other people. The quality of your relationships are going to be a lot more advanced, a lot more celestial, a lot more next level. And a lot of that is due to you strengthening your energy and space you hold for others as this lead role Leo rising character. So the first 6 months is the setup. You're activating it. You're going to begin integrating it as it will break through the ground by Taurus in May. And then the integration begins to harvest in August. And that's where you begin to come into the results of the solar return. The quality of partnerships you've extraordinarily awakened through other people, well, through yourself towards other people, is going to begin to harvest as now everything you know you've been holding space for other people will now establish the courage of how you express on stage and represent your personality, which will now manifest the real value of it, the attitude, all things that will get set up here. And then the integration will, of course, conclude to prepare for next year. So get ready, my friend. I think compared to most solar returns, this is going to be very fascinating. Plus, I also believe that anytime you have a solar return in the angular houses, it's a lot more significant than other houses. Like it is very definitive, quite literally. So we're going to definitely break down what to look forward to. Once again, the major thankfully you are born with the fire rising and you have the solar return rising, so it's going to kind of blend certain themes, which I'll speak on. But the main thing that we want to look at is the eclipse, the North Node and Chiron in your first house. Like, if we just look natally, you are unlocking your personality. Like, you're unlocking your identity. Yes, it's progressed past this point, but very powerful because you began this in October, 6 month arc that you will kick off for good in April. So late March, April is very, very significant. This is what's going to really establish this mission and challenge to own and really step into the power that is you post Saturn return, because you're going through a transit like this after your Saturn return. All right, which is very rare. Okay. I like that my North Node is on your sun. So I feel like in a lot of ways you were destined to choose me to do this, which is a huge honor. Huge honor. So with that being said, once again, we know that the North Node in Aries is very significant. This is going to, through destiny, alter and influence the actions you are destined to take as it correlates to the characterization of your identity based on the individual and authentic actions you take away from society's expectations. This is what, as a Leo rising, you're going to be teaching people by leading by example. And then, of course, Jupiter and Uranus in the 10th is promising this year milestone success, whether through unexpected windfalls of income. The liquidity here with this Earth trine is insane. So, like, money is a huge thing. Money that with the North Node in Aries, you create on your own self. So it's not like, oh, we told you to go to school and you didn't. Like, you're creating something unique to you that is getting you the bag. And that's reflected especially with the second house right here. So really cool. The solar return moon is in Virgo. This gives you the Scorpio signature. So you'll be analyzing and transforming this knowledge. Of course, that's because the moon will be in Virgo in a couple of days. So that's really dope. This is going to give you all year an understanding analytically of how to connect the value of your self-esteem and career, and then direct it to integrate the organization of how to take this analysis and put it all together. So this is really cool because Jupiter and Uranus represent in May 2024 the expansion and chapter 2 cycle that's going to quite literally evolve how much money you can manifest at will, at will, at will. Okay, just making sure we're clear. At will, like boom. And now as a Leo rising, this manifestation capability is what's going to innovate very unconventionally your career success. And that's what you're going to sow the seeds for in May and then harvest in September and November. Okay. So a lot to look forward to once again. If we kind of kick this off now, knowing this, February, March, and April are the activation of this solar return, especially with the sun at 8 degrees, as we can see here. This definitely puts you in a position to very, very realistically, if anything, open up this unique level of much of your potential and supernatural influence towards other people. Okay? It definitely also, I believe, puts you in a position to reflect on perhaps experiences you may have felt you had with other people versus now, relative to how much better you're in a position to really, really, really now take a leadership role relative to this quality of influence. It definitely goes a long way, especially in really setting the awareness and the intention of how by 6 months to a year from now, you will have awakened and set the stage to completely transform the quality of your partnerships. Um, as an Aries rising, this awareness of your partnerships is your natal 11th house. So it's having you almost come into accountability towards the friendships you have and who in your social circle or what partnerships do you feel belong around you is the major theme of this year. So converting your Aries rising into the swag Leo rising is strengthening the courage of your personality to account for this. And it is fortuitously badass. I just wanted to use that word because that word is amazing. So with that being said, the first part of this activation is activating the direction you take the knowledge and the knowledgeable awareness of others towards. All right. In other words, the new moon we have in Aquarius is a new extraordinarily awakened cycle of partnering with people. And now, as an Aries rising, establishing new friendships with people, or at least a new sense of belonging. This, once again, is tied around to who and what partnerships that you are being gifted, or the way you move forward interpersonally with others. Where does that belong? So we need to establish that new cycle. And then, of course, your Mars, Mercury, Venus will also make it out of the 6th into the 7th solar return, which is really integrating the organized quality of your behavior so that this can now integrate into these extraordinary partnerships. You are quite literally, and the facet of Pluto and the sun here is you're the one awakening people. Yeah, you may be awakened by people too, but really it's you as the celestial queen who's going to be awakening people, taking this analytical understanding and transforming what and how it is they know what they know with real evidence. Like your soul has the receipts this year, which now as an Aries rising will be an understanding of how you're manifesting the quality of your behavioral techniques that you snap your fingers and make happen. So now Pisces is going to be the results of the partnership, 8th house. This is going to transcend a lot of the trust issues you may have with people because now you are drawing very useful boundaries to protect your soul, your understanding, and your value. All right. So this is what's going to take the knowledge you've established and have you experience the effects of your routine and behavior you integrated through January. Because this is your natal 12th house, it's also going to kick in the Cazimi with Saturn and Neptune and begin this huge 12th house chapter, which as an Aquarius sun is 2nd house to you. So this is quite literally transcending your belief on your supernatural ability through your imagination to manifest. It's going to quite literally change considerably how much confidence you have in yourself because you're being aware of how you were unconscious maybe your whole life of the fact that you literally can just imagine things and make them happen without doing these law of attraction techniques that maybe some people need to do. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. You're elite. Okay. So like with that being said, this is most definitely going to open up and sow the seeds to the level of integrity and discipline needed to maintain such a supernatural quality of your own imagination. And that's the cool thing about being an Aquarius, because science does not catch up to you guys. Like science believes you're science fiction. For me to even say this, like most people would think that this is like giving scam advice or just completely bullshitting you. But thankfully, especially with the moon in Virgo, you will have on hand analytical, detailed insight to experience every facet of this, because everything you're setting up for how it is or what you believe you can manifest with your imagination, by September, you have fully liquidated and manifested. And the checkpoint is going to be Gemini, where you're understanding what these mechanics are. So that's what makes this year also very, very exhilarating and controversial. And the whole purpose of this Pisces chapter is to adjust your perception to prepare what direction you establish this destiny in Aries. now that you know what you want with other people and how you want to move forward with other people, Aries is now you in your first house establishing the direction you take your identity, and in the ninth house taking this personality and now sowing the seeds for the philosophical direction. Everything that you exalt in your identity or idea of yourself. This is very powerful because it's going to be the eclipse. It's also going to square the Capricorn power, which is going to take the disciplined element of your behavior so it can align with the raw original nature of your philosophy. That way your philosophy is not too rigidly grounded, but then it's also put in check to be disciplined enough to still maintain authenticity. So a lot of things are going to kick off for you April. It's going to kick off for everyone April, but for you is where you're at the peak of the roller coaster, and that completes activation. Everything in Aquarius that you are establishing now will harvest in August, as far as now who you express yourself as after 6 months of development. Everything that you believe you can create and invest and manifest, which you will imagine and already begin to see happen in March, will fully be real in September. It's going to manifest through this innovative evolution of your finances, the liquidation of the income that in the sixth house will really flesh out how you live your life and allocate those funds. So this is very exciting. And then, of course, the direction you are destined to take your identity and come into a higher wisdom of it, based on individual actions you take personally, are going to harvest with the social actions with other people that influence and harvest your attitude. So, of course, the philosophical approach you're taking and teaching, or learning, you'll be able to teach others by showing by example, and vice versa. This could even represent you becoming a teacher or you coming into a higher course. Even if just for this, yeah. This brings us now to integration. Integratively, a lot of what you sow seeds for here will now start to break through the ground, which I love because Taurus is an earth sign here. And like a magic beanstalk, is going to grow very quick. Very, 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 very quick. Very quick. Okay. Very quick. I mean, you'll already start to see it in Pisces. But this is what's going to give you grounded footing. This is beautiful because this is your second house. So you're going to have the Jupiter, Uranus, Sun conjunction in your second house. That is one of the most extraordinary, unconventional second houses ever. It is making sure the way you manifest money is unconventional, is just basically snapping your goddamn fingers. And I mean, that's not normal. That's why, this is going to be very controversial, because a lot of what you're going to be achieving, which is kind of like most of your whole life, most people won't think it's possible. They'll think it's some kind of BS when really it's not that it's BS. They're dumb. So they don't understand your genius. All right. So with that being said, this is going to start the extraordinary quality of your partnerships with others, which is the gift of the solar return, will start to break through the ground by the evolved and enhanced nature of your legacy and career success, exalting who in your relationships you can have be a part of the success, or how much more you draw boundaries for people who don't deserve or are not worthy of this. Everything that you establish and sow the seeds for here will transform your living situation and who you trust in the eighth house with these finances in November. And that's what's going to bring us to Gemini season. May is going to get ready to transit Gemini and trine your sun close to September, which will expand a lot more of what you think and who you think belongs around you based on who you're aware you're moving forward with. So Gemini is going to give a whole host of clarity and also be the checkpoint for this Pisces season, where Taurus is the checkpoint between Leo and Aqua. So a lot of you, but by the time you express boldly here, you're going to come into a checkpoint to see the actual natural value of what's possible to take with this before you identify with the success. Okay. And as you're coming into this change of belief, this is going to now change your thoughts, because Pisces is going to begin to show you, oh, wow, this is possible. This is possible. I didn't think this was possible. Wow, this is possible. And then Gemini is going to now integrate the truth of what's possible. Okay, I believe this was possible, and this is what's actually true about it. And I believe this is possible, and this is what's actually true about it. And this is who actually ties into this. So this is where a lot of enlightenment, a lot of clarity, a lot of connection here, especially trining with the sun. And once you make that direction with Aries, it's also going to add more clarity here. That's what everything you now intellectually understand what's real, you will analyze and break down for real and actually make real before you harvest in Sagittarius season the true meaning, the higher meaning of everything that you've quite literally imagineered into existence. All right. And then, of course, that leaves Cancer, which will be the last point of integration before we begin to harvest in August. And the checkpoint through Aries, which established the direction you take your beliefs and also your personality, is going to take this comfort zone in the 4th house and transcend new beliefs around it, especially with the new moon. We're taking the knowledge of how to deal with others, which is also your sense of belonging, and we're integrating the sincere feelings of how to put together this knowledge, because you're going to be very aware of who other people are and what they're meant to be. And this will now begin to integrate new beliefs during the new moon that transcend and release old doubts, but also give you a new comfort zone relative to who you feel you're supposed to be around. Because that is what's going to now prepare not only for the Leo transit where you begin to harvest, but this element of these unconscious habits will now be reflected in Capricorn season before your next solar return in newly formed habits that can replace the unconscious habits that no longer apply, because you're on the red carpet now. That's the coolest thing about August. Like, your solar return is going to start to harvest August. Like, I had the Gemini solar return in my 10th house. That was when I began to work with Lotta. I became Magic Mike. And by Sagittarius season, 6 months later, I was making 6 figures for the first time ever in my life. And I quite literally had to move because I was able to afford a better apartment. And that was how it began to harvest. So, of course, you're awakening and transforming these relationships. That's going to begin to harvest by being so much more bold and courageous to express and perform this to the relationships you're sponsoring. And this is going to quite literally also increase, as an Aries rising, the creativity and talent and courage with which you express your personality. Woo! Of course, by the time we get into Virgo, this will begin to now harvest what investments you are imagining and believing in that you'll analyze for real. Libra will have you move into social direction that you've established for the final part of this eclipse to release any old attitudes now that you're moving towards a more authentic unlocking of yourself. Scorpio will transform very considerably how much more you're comfortable with this greater liquidity and money and wealth and success. I mean, even if you're broke, you're still going to be success. It's going to lead the way for you to make money. You're either going to get a lot of money, or it's going to really manifest the game plan that within 6 months will secure a lot of money. And then, of course, the idea and attitude you establish, 3rd house Gemini in your 11th house, relative to who you think should be around you, will be the creativity in the 5th house that you also establish very considerably and very powerfully. So a lot to look forward to. Please keep me posted above all, because this is looking like a really good solar return. I'm not going to lie. Pluto right next to the DC is somewhat salacious. And seeing Venus trine Jupiter and lightly make that grander trine is going to add a lot of grounded footing to the nature and quality of how real you'll be able to log and track success and development. So it's one thing to have this expanded quality of success, but a lot of the organization with the 6th house Capricorn is going to really put it together for you. And as an Aries rising, that's your 10th house. So it's going to really also kind of bring home more than ever this greater will and control over what you want success to look like for you. And Virgo moon is going to really, make things very sensitive, but very powerfully reveal how it is you bring all of this into form. All right. So I hope you enjoy that. You stay blessed as always. And until next time.